Hey guys, I'm back today with another episode of Coffee with Mina, except I'm not drinking coffee. I'm having some decaf tea today. And so let's start where we left off. We've been talking a lot about self-care and feminine energy and being a woman and a lot of fun things, which you guys can check out in the previous videos if you're new to my channel. But today we're talking about the art of being more by doing less, and we're talking about minimalism from the perspective of the feminine essence and the feminine energy. So this is going to be a very interesting topic, I think, because I think this is why previously I have gotten negative comments, some negative comments, not all, but some negative comments about how I wasn't really a minimalist, or how my minimalism didn't look like other people's minimalism. And I think it's I'm kind of coming full circle, and I'm connecting it because most of us, the way minimalism has been defined, or when we're reaching out and searching this information, minimalism, as with a lot of things right now in our society, is coming from a very male perspective, and nothing wrong with that. But I think that if we want to make it our own and do it the correct way, it's just so much more fun to do it from the feminine energy and feminine essence. And I couldn't quite describe this before. I kept saying, this is my version of it, this is how I have interpreted it, and I really get it now that my minimalism is not going to look like the normal ideal minimalism, because I'm a woman and mine is coming from a very feminine perspective and feminine essence. Good morning, guys. I'm going to be taking questions and interacting with you guys, but let me give the core of my content first in case somebody's watching this in the replay. So keep those questions and comments coming. I love seeing them. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends who happens to also be a subscriber, and I was telling her she's really interested in this feminine energy. She also is interested in minimalism and a lot of the same things that I'm interested in. And I was telling her that if I ever designed a course, maybe in the future, about how to be a woman and how to cultivate feminine energy and the art of being a feminine woman, the number one slide or the number one lesson on, in that course would be on reducing your clutter and minimalism, right? It's sort of a not hardcore minimalism the way that we're used to seeing it, but really taking control back of your environment, of your life. Because a lot of the things that I've been talking about, a lot of the things, the inner work, the discovering who you really are, all of that stuff, you can't really do it if you've got clutter in your space. If you're so busy maintaining everything in your environment, there is no way you're going to have the mental space or the physical space to be able to do these things. And it's very interesting how my journey has unfolded. And for those of you guys that have been following me for 6 years on YouTube, you see how that transformation started really with the nutrition, taking control of that. And I think I'm not saying that everybody has to follow that same path, but I don't think that it's a coincidence, because I took care of some of the I took some of the thorns out, the things that needed the immediate attention, the things that were kind of screaming out for, hey, look at me, I need you to fix me first. I had to follow that path and then be able to get to a point where I have the space, both mental and physical, to do the inner work. So if I were to design a course, I promise you guys the number one lesson in there would be that you have to take back control of your physical environment so that you have the mental space to be able to do this inner work and find out who you really are. What do you like? What don't you like? Because when all of your stuff is making noise, you may not see it that way, but that stuff makes noise, right? We're constantly drawn to things, whether we know it or not, subconsciously. Of all the things in our environment, that's mental noise. So if you have all of that noise going on, you're not going to be able to do a lot of the work that I talk about, the inner work, the discovering, who you are, fixing your relationship, a lot of those things. So I highly encourage you, no matter where you are in your journey right now, to reclaim that space. And maybe you're so busy right now that you only have time to start in one room. Then make that your room your number one priority, and decluttering it. Maybe it's your bedroom, maybe it's your office or some other space in your home, so that you have a place to go and sit and do that thinking, that reading, that discovering what that meant. It has to be a space that promotes silence, right? It promotes the ability to be able to think for a minute. I have been known to say this, like, guys, quiet, I can't hear myself think. Now that's just like the verbal noises, right? But I'm like that in spaces too. If there's a lot of clutter, if there's a lot of stuff in any room, I find myself really easily agitated and just not able to focus so much, because all of that stuff is taking away from my energy. So that would definitely be number one on my list. Why is minimalism different for the masculine energy and feminine energy? In my opinion, the masculine energy, again, it's very goal-oriented, it's rigid, it's very, there's numbers involved. And that's where I think minimalism loses a lot of females. It's because when we're looking at it, it seems very constricting, right? It seems very like I have to put myself in a certain box. Well, if we let go of that definition and say, you know what, let's not even call it minimalism, it's gone, it's out the door. And we just say, and I think that's where Con Marie had it right. It's that she had that concept of looking at things and saying, does this item promote joy? Does this item bring me joy? And I know she says, does this item bring me joy? But happiness is something that you can get from external circumstances and external things. Joy is something that comes from within, right? So I think I would rephrase that as not, does this item bring me joy, but does this item promote joy in my life? Does it allow me to be grounded and present and radiate joy from within? Or is this something that I have to maintain and manage? I hate this thing, I don't even love it, or I don't hate it. Let's say that it's just something that's there, but you're not really that excited about it, but you have to clean it and dust it. That's where I think a lot of people get upset and say, well, Con Marie is in minimalism. Who cares what we're calling it? Let's call it a rose, right? But the fact is that I think the Con Marie method can be a little bit closer, because now we're asking those important questions. So now I want you to look at everything else that I've talked about minimalism, and for a second say, okay, when I look at my environment, when I look at my space, does my space allow me to be who I am? Does it allow and promote mental clarity, mental peace, silence when I need it? It doesn't have to be a black and white space. What in my environment promotes that feminine essence? So you've got your feminine touches in there. You've got your home decor maybe that you love. I love my fuzzy pillows and my fuzzy throws and stuff. And that's okay according to my definition of minimalism, because I'm coming from a feminine energy and feminine essence. And so if I have items that, according to, hardcore minimalists, is a little excessive, who the hell cares? As long as everything that I have bought into my environment promotes inner calm for me, inner peace. It allows me joy without cluttering my mind and, taking up too much of my time, so that I can have time to cultivate the things that I really value in my life. Who cares? I'm not counting. Counting is very masculine energy, because now here I'm keeping track of stuff, right? No, I'm just going to naturally flow. Now, if this flow gets in the way of my thinking, if it's getting in the way of me having to maintain too many items, okay, now we can talk. Now we can talk about decluttering maybe once again, or reevaluating what I'm bringing in and going back to square one. But if the number of items that I have are promoting inner calm for me and joy, I don't care if I fit into some man's definition of minimalism. This is my minimalism. I get to define it the way that I want to and live it the way that I want to. So if I have one too many dresses in there, but that dress makes me feel fantastic and my dresses just bring me a lot of joy. Again, joy comes from inside, but they promote that for me. Then I'm okay with having one too many dresses. I hope this is kind of making a little bit more sense. It's like a full circle for me because I kept saying, why is it that so many people get that worked up about counting items or me not fitting into this box? And it's because that crab analogy again, if you put a bunch of crabs in a box and one tries to climb out, the rest of the crabs will pull them down. And I think we do this with feminine energy. So that's going to be my second. I'm going to talk about, let me write that down because sometimes I forget. Let me take some comments from you guys, and I want to talk about part 2 of this. So hi, I've got, Universal Journey, I haven't seen you in a while. Janan, let's see, Samantha, good morning. Let's see. Divya said, I cannot breathe in a cluttered environment. Divya, you and I both. I don't know. I envy people. I really envy people that are able to just be okay with clutter, and because when I see those people, I don't think, they must not be thinking or they can't. All I see is that if I really do know, and I really do, I do know people that are totally okay with chaos and clutter, like so much so that it's just like coming at them and they seem at peace. So instead of judging them, what I say is that, whoa, like that is amazing. I wish that I was like that, but I'm not. So what I have to do for me to promote my own sanity is that I keep my home decluttered because I know I'm not that person. And that's okay. No judgment on that person or me, but you have to work with what you have been given with, right? And so some of us just can't survive in that environment. Farida said, I get emotionally attached to stuff and I don't know why. I did this 40 days, 40 bags challenge. I threw a bunch of stuff and I feel free now. That is amazing. So Frida, I want to go back to the first part of your sentence though, your comment. You said, I get emotionally attached to stuff and I don't know why. So one thing that I have been finding is that a lot of the inner work that I've been doing, in the last 2 weeks, I think I read over 12 books. Yeah, I mean, I've been reading insanely. I'm reading like a book and a half almost a day because I'm just really taking that time to do that inner work and ask myself some very important questions. And it's just been fascinating. So one of the things that came up, well, this is from 2 or 3 different books, but I combine a lot of the things that I learned in books to make them my own. And one thing that I learned in one of the books was to ask yourself how you're feeling and don't attach any judgment to it. And I found that I am discovering a lot of my past inner issues by doing this. So let's do an example of that, Frida. So if you're in a room, let's say, let me give you a different example because I hadn't thought that one out. So let's say that I looked at my subscriber list and a few minutes later I happened to ask myself, how am I feeling right now? And the thing that comes up for me is that I'm feeling disappointed. So I asked myself, why? Why are you feeling disappointed? And after some digging and thinking, maybe the answer is that maybe my subscribers are not growing as fast as I had hoped, let's say. So I asked myself, why do you want more subscribers? And so my answer to that is, now it's not happening that quickly. Sometimes it takes me a lot of time to think through why, and this is just one example. And let's say that the answer to that is because I want to connect more. I have an important message to share about self-care and I want to share it with as many people as possible. And that's my answer. So I'd say, okay, why are you feeling disappointed? You are already connecting with people. You have 21,000 people that have connected with you. You have this amazing community of women that you're talking to and speaking to every single day, and you're having fun doing it. Why is the subscriber number bringing a disappointment, right? And so when I did that inner work, long story short, I won't walk you guys through all of that. I discovered that the community aspect of it, what I really want, that's what I really crave, I've already created. So whether I have 5 of you guys following me and connecting with me and listening to me, or 100,000, that part of it doesn't really matter, right? Because what's more connection? If you're connecting, what does it matter? And doing that inner work, I realized that the number aspect of it, again, that's that masculine energy, and that goes back to like in my childhood and issues that I've gone through of like feeling like this sense of worthiness if I have the social proof of having X number of subscribers. So now I'm like, whoa, okay, that is some deep inner issues, right? And so I started working through that and saying, and not without judging myself, working through that. This is a very interesting exercise because so many things are coming up for me that I would have thought, hey, I'm better than all, I'm above all of that stuff. I'm this person that considers myself, an intellect, and I would assume that I'm over that, but none of us are exempt from our inner hurts and our childhood issues and things that we have picked up, those negative belief systems over time. So this exercise of asking yourself, how are you feeling? It's so powerful and so important. So Farida, the reason I went off on a tangent right there was because you said I get emotionally attached. So if you ask yourself those questions of how am I feeling, and you notice a pattern coming up of this emotional attachment, you may find that something way far back in your life has triggered some sort of a feeling in you that is making you keep on to this stuff. And if you can find out what that is and see those patterns popping up in your thinking and feelings, it's such a powerful exercise, because just noticing it and speaking about it and saying, oh wow, okay, I didn't realize that this was an issue for me, and why this is why I'm doing it. It's not coming from a healthy place, it's coming from a past or hurt. That process alone it just helps so much in being able to come over this. Now I've have things come up from my childhood that I thought I was so far over, right? Or I had suppressed that memory somehow, but just asking myself, and a lot of times, most of the time, I'm feeling great, I'm feeling happy, and so I ask myself, how come I'm feeling happy? And then because I'm present right now, or Alina said something cute, and I'm so grateful that I have her, and things like that. So that process, when it's the good stuff, that reminds me constantly that what I truly value in my life, I already have. I don't have to go and achieve anything else. I may want to if I feel like it, but I don't need that to have joy in my life, because all the joy that I have, it already exists in my life. It exists within me. It's my own mindset, my thinking, and being able to be present in the moment. So this is such a powerful exercise. I've discovered this, it's coming up in so many of the books that I've read, and I kept thinking, first, what's inner work? Like, what do they mean, inner work? Like, I've done the inner work, I'm such a positive person. And then I realized that no, sometimes the positive person in me, like that outside being positive, that can be a way that I've armored up, right? As Brené Brown says, that may be, and I'm not saying that I'm fake in that. I am genuinely a positive, happy person. But that has been almost like a mask, because I don't want to face some of the inner things, some of the inner insecurities. It's a mask that I've been able to put on and say, yeah, no, everything's great. I'm positive, I'm happy, and everything is great. And I am positive most of the time, but it doesn't mean that I can't take control of or kind of like feel those other emotions. Nobody's happy all the time. Nobody's positive all the time. So instead of saying, I feel disappointed right now. No, let me count all my blessings. Let me give gratitude for everything. Yes, it can pull me out of that, but it doesn't mean that I've settled that issue. It's still there. It's still lying dormant there somewhere, saying, hey, great that you're a positive person, but I still need attention. I still need to be sorted out. I'm going to keep popping up in your life until you sort me out and really put me at rest. So this is an interesting concept. When I was reading one of Brené Brown's books, and this thing came up about how positivity sometimes can almost be a way of armoring up and saying that I don't have any past hurts, even though they're laying there waiting to be addressed. So let's see. Sorry about that, Kelly. My friend Freedom in a Budget said my browser isn't letting me view the video because it's live. That is strange. Maybe restart. Let's see. Anna said, you are right. Asking how an item makes you feel is super important. There are things that drain your energy. Yes, yes, Anna, definitely. Um, Samantha said, I agree. It's not about counting items. It's about having enough. Ooh, Samantha, you just brought up such a great point. So I was reading a book. I don't remember which book talks about this. It may actually have been Brene Brown's book. Yes, I think it was this one. The Gifts of Imperfection. So she talks about how the opposite of scarcity isn't abundance. So I always thought the opposite of scarcity, I think a lot of people think this way, is abundance. And she wrote that the opposite of scarcity is enough. So you just made me think about that from your comment. And this is interesting too, because I think sometimes it's helpful to look at the opposite of scarcity as abundance, having an abundance mindset, right? Unlimited, and there's this unlimited resources. But sometimes that can be mentally draining because I really don't need unlimited resources, right? I like to think that there's the possibility of unlimited resources in the sense that I can get anything that I want. But at the end of the day, there's only so much, right? I just need enough. I just need enough to promote my inner joy and some happiness and some fun in my life. I don't need the whole world, because I think what happens, and the difference is here, is that if you are thinking in my life, I'm not trying to judge anybody else, but in my life, if I think of the opposite of scarcity as being abundance, then there's this always constant need of getting more or achieving more or being more, when the truth is that I am enough just the way that I am. I'm perfect the way that I am, because this is how I was created. I have everything within me that I need, right? And so now if I like buying some clothes to promote my feminine energy and have some fun, then great, but I don't need an abundance of those things. I just need enough to promote inner joy. This is Samantha, thank you so much for bringing that up, because this was it was an important mindset shift for me, because and you guys know I would not take this back ever. I credit my entire life and joy and everything that I have in my life now to the law of attraction and that way of thinking. But now I'm going to a point where it's time to learn some new tricks and kind of move a little bit above that, because let me tell you guys something. So I've realized in my life that I read two types of books. I only read self-help books, so that's just one type. But there's doing books, and then there's being books. So some books that I read, they make me want to go and do more. They make me, when I read them, I'm like, yeah, like I can have anything I want. Like, yay, like I want to go and create this big to-do list, and I want to achieve for more. And those are great when you need those. Those are great. But then I found some books that are just being books. You read this book and you those books, and you realize that, you know what, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to strive for anything else if I don't want to. I am enough with what I am just enough. I'm worthy, and I don't have to go get the whole world, because sometimes that feeling can be exhausting, and you're kind of like this hamster running the wheel, because a lot of the things that I've been having on my goal list for years, now that I'm evaluating them from a feminine energy perspective and the perspective of I am enough, I'm perfect the way I am, I don't need to become anybody to get better. I'm perfect. I can achieve. Then I'm like, okay, do I still need to do any of these things? And I'm realizing that my list is very different. It's coming from a different place. It's very different. Yes, baby cakes?
My necklace broke also.
Oh no!
My thing came off.
Oh no. You think Nanu can fix it again?
Yeah.
I think he can fix it. Okay.
It's on the floor.
Oh. I think save it. He fixed it yesterday. I think he can fix it again, okay?
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. Melissa said, I try to do too much. I'm overwhelmed with cleaning. I'm OCD, want everything clean. How can I stop that? How do I get organized? Melissa, so one thing I would, in here, first I would start with the feeling. So when you have that instant urge to clean, I want you to see how you're feeling and then ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And write it down and don't judge yourself. It is what it is. And then when you clean, allow yourself to clean and then ask yourself that question again. How do I feel right now? And then be very honest with yourself. And you may not get the answers right away. You get the feeling answer right away, but you may not get the why answer right away. You'll start to see patterns come up. And then write that down and see if those things, a lot of times things like that need for control and that need for having in a very clean space, those things come from my childhood. So let me give you an example from my own life, Melissa, because I dealt with that. I'm not OCD, but I did want my environment very much clean and organized. And when I started asking myself those questions, one thing I have never allowed, okay, so we have a dining room table, obviously, right? And so I had this huge thing that there could be nothing on that dining room table ever. There could never be something. It had to be like clean. And I had just accepted this about myself. But I asked myself, I saw it getting messy, people piling stuff on, and I had this panic reaction that I have to clean it. And so I said, wait, stop. Why? You're feeling how are you feeling? And I said panicked and just overwhelmed just because this one damn table is cluttered. And I said, why? And so when I really thought about it, it's because in my home, I've shared this with you guys when I was growing up. My mom she was a very busy person. She wasn't a very clean person. It just didn't matter to her if the house was cluttered or messy. It wasn't her thing. And my dad was a complete opposite, OCD about stuff like that. So they were a complete mismatch in this. And our dining room table was one place where my dad had just given up, and it was just a chaotic mess. It was awful. And so I remember always feeling very panicked by that table, even though in hindsight, I did nothing to like help the situation. Like I didn't declutter it or help my parents in any way, I feel like. I just let it be. Everybody had given up. And when I realized that, I realized... Okay, Mom.
One thing is not there.
Okay, stay there and then play with what Mommy talked about. And then when Nanu comes, he'll help you, okay? Okay.
One thing is not there.
Okay, that's okay. Now, Imran has one too. He'll give you his, okay?
Okay.
Don't worry. It's just a necklace. That's okay, right?
One thing is not there.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So, yeah, so the things that came up with me is that couple things. One, that is why like I felt like I lived in a very messy environment because of that table. That's why I was panicked by it. And secondly is that I kind of felt a little bit of guilt that was a messy area and that I didn't contribute cleaning it. So I solved that issue by constantly cleaning my own table. And then now I realize when I work through that, I realize that I've noticed that if things are there, I'm not so bothered by them anyways, because I'm like, you know what, this is not my parents' house. This is my house. And just because that table is messy, it doesn't mean anything about who I am as a person, who my parents were as people, or the fact that I feel like I didn't contribute to keep that table clean. I did as much as I possibly could in other areas. So I hope that this is making sense for you guys, that when you work through, this is called inner work. And now I've noticed that if the table gets a little messy, I'm not triggered by it. And you're not going to believe this. When I'm not triggered by the table and I let it get a little, if things pile up, I notice that my sons go and they clean it off. They run. I don't have to say anything. Whereas before I would say, oh guys, you guys are piling up the table again. Look, I have to remove all the stuff. It's piling up. And they would see me clean it, but it wasn't a very positive energy. It was almost like frantic cleaning energy. It wasn't feminine energy. And when I allowed everybody the space to just let it be and I'm not triggered by that anymore, I noticed that either one of my son will go and start clearing off the table, they'll wipe it down, they'll vacuum under it, and I'm like, when I'm stepping back, leaning back and just being in my feminine essence of flow and letting go, the masculine energy in my home, my boys, my husband, they're stepping up and they're taking care of things. So it's just, guys, I cannot tell you guys enough of why this is an important exercise to be doing in your life. Yes, Lizette, this is so good. She said, when I was a teen, my room was a complete mess. I was going to a psychiatrist at the time, and she told me that a cluttered room is a reflection of a cluttered mind. Yes, I truly believe this. Okay, now having said that, Lizette, let's just play devil's advocate for a second though, and say I'm gonna go back to whose comment was that? Melissa's comment. So an OCD person, an OCD mind is a reflection of some other like deep need to control the situation, or some deep hurt, or some deep feeling of like, because anytime I would see that table piling up for me, it would bring about two feelings, right? That feeling of that I lived in this chaotic, like messy environment, and so also the second thing of that I did not contribute in my part in keeping that clean, and so that would make me want to clean that table frantically. So these are just my own personal ones. I'm not saying that if that's you, that's the same reason for you, but it's so important to go through that process. And then so I was able to tell that little girl in me that, you know what, you were already doing way beyond what is required of a child at that time. You guys know my story, right? So I forgive you for not doing your part in keeping that table clean, and your table getting messy in your adult home now with 3 kids. It's not a reflection on that, on who you are. You are worthy, you're enough. And just saying those loving words to yourself. I know this is such a simple thing. It's so small. It's just the damn table, Mina, right? No, it's not. Because some of those inner wounds and hurts, they come back in different ways and different things. Because if I'm feeling guilty about not having helped my parents in that little thing, that may be making me feel insecure in other areas of my life, and that need for control. Whereas feminine energy is very flowing, and it's just very allowing to be who you are. This work is so important. I could have paid thousands of dollars to a therapist or a psychiatrist or somebody to take me years to do this work, but you can do it yourself. I think some people can do it themselves. Let's just say it this way. I think some people need that extra help. You may need a life coach, a therapist. Nothing wrong with that. But I will say that because of my own background in what I studied, I had the honor and pleasure of actually having professors that were some of the best therapists and psychiatrists and just amazing professionals in Chicago. And so I was taught all this stuff. But because I was just looking at it from the surface, I wasn't like digging deep to say, how do I need this work? Like, where does this apply in my own life? Now that I'm able to do this, it's just amazing. And I've realized that my feminine power is coming up. I don't need to put on a mask of masculine power. And those things also stem from my own childhood. I've talked about, I was molested as a child. Those things have made me put on this masculine mask saying, hey, I'm strong. And because the only way I knew to be strong and powerful was from a masculine point of view. I was protecting that child that was still living in me. That had been gone through this horrific event. And so now when I'm able to deal with those things and say, you know what, this is something that happened to you, it wasn't your fault, and recognizing that I had put on a masculine mask, I'm realizing that I can be powerful and strong from a feminine perspective, and I don't need to put on this mask because I am safe now. And you guys will see these patterns in your own self if you start by asking yourself, how do I feel right now? It starts with that simple question. At any moment in your day, just find yourself, and it doesn't mean you have to do it when you're worked up, right? And it could be it is actually a very good exercise to do then. But maybe if you're just sitting and having a cup of tea, you ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? True Beauty said, I've been doing lately every time to make a to-do list. Yeah, so True Beauty, this is an interesting concept too, because I think a lot of women think that when we have a to-do list, we have, like, it has to be finished. And a true to-do list, and this, Brian Tracy talks about this in a lot of his books, is that a true to-do list is a revolving thing, right? Unless you're dead, like, it's not gonna go away. But what I do in the morning, and I think it's kind of like yours, it's like I still have to get things done, right? And just because I'm working for my feminine energy doesn't mean I'm not getting things done. But I will wake up, do my feminine meditations I've been doing, do my physical exercise and things that I need to do, that sort of thing. And then I will say, okay, what's on my to-do list? Make a list, and then throughout the day, I'll ask myself, what do I feel like doing right now? And then I will finish that task and check it. And if some things don't get done, that's okay. I realize that it's not supposed to be this black and white thing. It's not like the masculine energy, it's a very focused and goal oriented, and it's like it has to get one thing done and then move on to the next. And that's how I've been my whole life, which is masculine energy. Now that I'm in my feminine energy, I'm also asking myself, oh Mimi, this is gonna knock down the lights, baby. Be very careful, okay? Here. Okay? What did you need? Okay. All right, go over there. I'm coming. Guys, I apologize, but as with toddlers, I need to take a 2-second break. I will be right back. All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. Oh, yeah? Here you go. Thank you. Guys, sorry about that. You guys know I work from home, so okay. So let's see what I think I was talking about. Yes, the feeling. Okay, so when I make that to-do list, I also ask myself, why do I have to do these things? And a lot of the things that I have on my list, again, those are again about achievements. And why do I want to achieve this? Do I want to achieve this because it brings me passion and joy, or do I want to achieve this because I have to prove something to the world or to any, my loved ones that I can do this? And a lot of times, I hate to admit this, especially live on YouTube. A lot of times I'm realizing that some of the things I want to do are not because they're going to bring me passion or joy. I thought they were, but it's because I have this inner need of like having these achievements under my belt. And so when I'm seeing that, I'm like, okay, cross it off. Nope, I am worthy. I'm worthy just the way that I am. And if I'm not doing it from a place of inner peace and calm and because it brings me passion, nope. I'm not going to do it because I have set this inner agenda for myself, feeling that if I got this done, I'm more worthy of something, right? No, I'm worthy just the way that I am. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of just being who I am without having to prove myself. And this is, so when you make that to-do list, ask yourself, are these like actual things, like I have to cook because I have to feed my family? Or things that you're doing that you have taken on because people are expecting you to do these things, or you think that by doing these things you're going to be more liked, you're going to be more loved, you're going to be achieving something for your own inner peace? Or are you achieving this because you think that people, again, those same questions, right? So this is such an interesting thing, because even someone like me that thought like I had done that work, I think what happened was, even though I love the law of attraction and I credit like my whole life to it, I think what happened is that it gave me this false sense of having done the inner work, because I was such a positive person because of it, and I was attracting all of these amazing things in my life through gratitude and being high vibration. I had buried some things that I wish I had done that. I mean, it is what it is. I'm doing it now. If I could have been a little bit happier or more joyful if I had done that work. But I discovered it now. Now's the time to do it, and I'm doing it now. And it's interesting because I'm realizing that a lot of the things that I had on for the last year, I've been saying, even here on YouTube, that I want to develop a course for you guys. And when I asked those important questions, I realized that the reason why I haven't been able to do it is because I had this mental block with it. And the reason I had the mental block is that I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. And this is an interesting concept too, because we talk about this concept of mental blocks and how to undo them. Well, I think it's important to undo mental blocks, but I think it's also important to question why you have them. I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I could not make this course for you guys. And I had a mental block, but it wasn't, I had a mental block of I'm not capable of doing it. I had a mental block because I realized now that I was trying to do it for the wrong reasons. So I probably will design a course sometime in the future, but not until I feel like I'm doing it for the right reason. And that reason will be because it will bring me passion and joy knowing that I'm helping you guys in some way. and not because it's like the next thing to do and I can check it off because it's the next thing to do in my journey on YouTube. I think that's the wrong reason to do it. It's not coming from an authentic place. So mental blocks, guys, sometimes they're there because of our belief system that we're not capable of doing something, but sometimes they're there to show you that you're not doing something for the right reasons, perhaps. So let's see, what else? Tina, okay. She said, hey Mina, I'm in the middle of my weight loss path. I feel beautiful. I think I look good when I look in the mirror. I think I look good, but when I look at myself in pictures, I feel horrible. So every time you look at a picture of yourself and you have that emotion come up, you ask yourself, how do I feel? And maybe that answer for you is, I feel horrible. And then you ask yourself, why? And sometimes you get the answer right away. Sometimes it takes days or weeks or months. But I want you to, even if you don't have the answer, why? I want you to keep asking yourself, why? And I don't know what it is for you. I don't know, your history or something. But for me personally, I have a similar story to that. I think I am at my I'm below what I had initially set at my goal weight. I'm healthy, I'm energetic, which is a good indication of like how I feel. Like I feel like this is where I need to be for my weight, right? But I noticed that in some pictures, I would have that feeling too. And then I realized it's because to me, it was like because that somebody else might see that picture. It had nothing to do with, if nobody else saw that picture, it didn't matter to me. So then again, it's like that self-image of somebody else having to approve of my weight. And then again, you go back to and you're like, no, I'm worthy. I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling amazing at the weight that I have decided for myself. And I didn't even decide because I decided a different weight, but this is how my body stopped at this weight. So then it's like, if somebody else doesn't approve of my weight, who cares? That's not their decision to judge. So I'm not saying that's the same thing for you, but you have to ask yourself those important questions because you realize that a lot of time it's because our perception of what other people will say. And they may say things, but they may not. Sometimes we punish ourselves thinking what they might say and they might not even say those things. Aisha said, hi Mina, nice to catch you live. When is Irfan coming back on camera? I want to hear of his side of your brand new love story. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, we've been having so much fun. It's been amazing. So he was away for a really long time. You guys know that when his mother was ill, out of the country. And so when he came back, he had so much work piled up and he's basically been playing catch up. And now that you mention it, let me just give you guys the good news. My mother-in-law's visa came in the mail 2 days ago. So he does have to go back and pick her up now and bring her back, which is, that's really good news. But he's trying to catch up on some projects at work before he leaves. So he wants to come on and tell you guys his side and share that because he's so excited. But at the same time, I don't want to keep asking him or mentioning it because I know he's so trying to iron everything out at work. And I think realistically speaking, it probably maybe if I feel like we're at at a place where he has some time, I may just pop on. But realistically speaking, when he comes back after picking up my mother-in-law, will probably be a better time. Maybe, I don't know what the how things will unfold, but we're just very excited. She's been waiting for such a long time, and so she will be here soon. So that's the situation with Irfan. He's very excited about sharing it with you guys, but I would feel awful at if I ask him to do it, he'll do it today. But I know his situation right now. And so he's just trying to catch up with everything at work. But thank you so much I know that you guys have been asking about him, and I always let him know that you guys are thinking about him. 1960, hey babe, she said, you are amazing. Thank you for everything you're teaching us. So very grateful for you. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say to you. Your comments are just so uplifting. 1960 leaves me the nicest, sweetest comments. And she literally makes my cheeks hurt because every time I see her comment, I'm smiling from ear to ear. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you for your love. Sheehan said, this is so interesting. A friend of mine would not share photos of her partner because she was afraid people would not find him attractive in photos. Yikes. Yes. Okay. So yeah, that's some inner work to do. So that I think that has nothing to do with her partner or how attractive that person is, and everything to do with your own wow, because like if I ask myself, if this was me and I asked myself why, it's so attached to your own self-worth, right? You think you are not worthy unless you have a certain type of attractive spouse. Whew, okay. Yeah, that's deep, but you need to do those work. I know that's your friend, but I can see those are exactly the reasons. If you you know, if I was that person and I was gonna put up a picture but I'm like, oh, my spouse doesn't look attractive, I would really ask myself, wow, why are you feeling this way right now, and do that inner deep work. So yes, thank you so much, Aisha. Yes, her voice changed on the phone we knew a week ahead of time that it was in the, it was coming. So just, her entire being changed when she found out. So thank you so much. Just said, love watching you. Anna said, what is feminine meditation? Sorry for my ignorance. No, babe, please don't apologize. This is all stuff that's new to me. One book that I highly recommend, and I have it linked already in the description box because I cannot stop talking about this book. So you guys know I love reading. I read a lot, and when I'm interested in something, I will read the hell out of that topic. And so I've read 12, 13 books in just the last 2 weeks. Anything that I could find that I thought would help me with inner work or with feminine energy. And the number one book so far, the prize goes to Powerful and Feminine by Rachel Jane. Oh my God, I think it's Rachel Jane Grover. I linked the book in the description box. And you guys know 99% of the time I will get the book from the library versus buying a book, just, because it's cheaper and I don't have to hold on to the book. I'm so grateful that I bought this book because she has so many wonderful exercises in it. She's got meditations that you can do. And it's life-changing. If you only buy one book this year and you're really interested in feminine energy or just finding happiness and being in tune with the woman inside of you, buy this book. Buy Powerful and Feminine. And Kindle is ebooks are my least favorite way to read a book or to consume a book. But I'm glad I did buy hers in an ebook because I have it with me at all times. And so if I'm ever, waiting somewhere or, in the car line, I can do some of the meditations and some of the exercises. It's new to me, so it hasn't become a habit yet. Hopefully one day it will, so that I don't even have to look at it. But you guys need this book. Absolutely need it. My library got flooded with Harvey, so I don't have access to a library anymore. I do have access to Overdrive. My library discontinued Hoopla, but we have Overdrive, and so they didn't have this book, so I ended up buying it. But I'm so worth every penny. If you only buy one book, buy that book. It's amazing. I'm going to contact Rachel and see if she would be willing to come on the channel and interview with us, because she actually has a YouTube channel herself. So check her out, Rachel Jane Grover. And if you guys go to her channel, leave in the comments that I told you guys about her. Say the Universe Guru sent me, because that way when I approach her for the interview, she will be more likely to come on, right? And I would love to just pick her brain on this topic because she is just fantastic. That book just tells you everything you need to know about feminine energy, being authentic, true to yourself, meditations. It's just amazing. So let's see. Thank you so much, Hina. That's so sweet. Thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. Let's see. Anna said, tailor minimalism to the individual. Minimal is not the same for all. Absolutely. And those people worry me a little bit that get so caught up in controlling other people's items or the number of things. And I think it says more about the fact that maybe they haven't accepted that for themselves, or they're having to fit into a box, so they want other people to fit in the box. I don't know what the reason is, quite frankly. I don't care. But I realized that when I accepted that it's going to look different for me, because I am me. There's no other person on this planet that's me. So when I accepted that, I noticed that it's not a trigger for me. If somebody thinks that I'm not a minimalist or a fake minimalist, or how dare you call yourself a minimalist, you know what? I can call myself anything I want to. You know, this is my version of my life, and you go live your version of your life, and hopefully you're doing that, because that's really the only way to be authentic, right? Is to live your version of your own life. So once I was able to let go of that fact that it's not going to be the same for me, it's okay. And it's not going to be the same for me if I'm coming from masculine energy and feminine energy, because even those two things look very different. For example, for years, I've been kind of paring down my makeup to only needing the essentials, and I still need only the essentials, but I was also trying to force myself to do less, and I've already pared down so much. So I asked myself, why I wanted to stop wearing liquid eyeliner, because that took a little bit more time, and really like keep minimizing, and I was like, why? Like, you've already minimized so much, why do you want to minimize more? And again, it came down to time. Well, it's just going to be easier with time. Time is a very masculine thing, right? It's like Mina, my subscriber Mina, said this great thing. She's like, Mother Nature, feminine energy, and Father Time, very masculine energy, right? And like, well, I enjoy doing it. I like the way that I look with that eyeliner on, because I'm coming from a masculine energy thing where everything has to be very minimized and very like functional is very masculine. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to take away something that I actually enjoy doing. I think it enhances the way that my eyes look, just for the sake of minimizing it, or just for the sake of saving 2 seconds, right? So from coming from a feminine energy, my minimalism will even look different. And I'm like, you know what? No, it brings me joy to put on that eyeliner. Like, I feel good. I feel awesome when I put it on. What's saving 2 seconds going to do for me? Like, that's very like routine oriented. That's very masculine. So even if you're the same person, but you're coming from a different energy perspective, that will also look different for you. So then you're like, okay, you can't even judge other people or allow them to judge you, because even I can be two different people coming depending on which energy I'm focusing from. So then it's like, okay, it's really like custom tailor made, right? Anna said, you're amazing. How do you find time to read, meditate, and grow your business, being a mom, wife, and keeping a house? So Anna, thank you for the compliment, but I almost feel like, I think that comments like that can pressure people, right? Because just reading that, I felt the sense of like this, oh my God, I'm not living up to that. So I'm not doing all of those things. I am meditating and I read a lot. I really enjoy that. But I'm not growing my business right now at all. I'm just connecting with you guys. I never have. I've never really advertised. So when you say growing your business, the way that people go about in doing this is very hardcore masculine energy. There's systems, there's a lot of processes, right? And I've never really done it to that level, but whatever I was doing, even just on YouTube, I've pared it down. Through doing the inner work, I've realized that to me, it does not matter if my business grows or not at this point. I'm having so much fun connecting with you. Just that one person on the other end of the screen, I'm having so fun, because these are the type of conversations I wish that people in real life would have, but I haven't been able to find that circle in real life yet that is open to having these authentic conversations. So this is so important to me that I be able to do this with you guys. Not because it's going to bring in money, not because it's going to make me feel worthy because I've achieved something, but because this is a real big need in my own life, to have these kind of discussions with you guys and connect with you. So when I say that, I realize I don't have to grow my business, because my business is what it is, and I just want to connect with you. So my purpose here when I come is not to sell you anything. It's not even to teach you anything. It's just to connect with you. So as long as I'm connecting with you, my business is where it needs to be. And so I've let that go. As far as being a mom, This is going to be a strange one for you guys maybe, but I've removed the label of mom from myself on some level. And I know this is gonna, I can't believe I'm talking about this. I didn't think I was going to discuss this. I didn't plan it out. But the label mom, the way that we see it in our society, has a lot of, it's a loaded label, right? When I say mom, it's a very heavy label to me because I feel like it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of pressure. I have to be a certain way, I have to talk a certain way, I have to dress a certain way, I have to do certain things. And so I've stopped seeing myself as mom. I'm just a family member. Like, I'm just me. It's weird, I know. Guys, I'm weird. Okay. I just want to be me. I have children. I have given birth to 3 children. They live with me. I take care of them. They take care of me. And I'm just being. I'm not doing mom with them. I'm just being me. And I realized that, guys, you guys still with me, hopefully. This is it's an important one for me. I think mom has a lot of things. It invokes a lot of things that we have to do, right? Certain ways that we have to be, but I've realized that my children don't need me to do anything. They don't need me to be a certain way. They just need me to be me. And I'm parenting from a very authentic and loving way when I'm just me and not mom or not super mom or not work from home mom or any type of mom, but just me. So I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody. I'm weird and this works for me, that I have removed the label. The funny thing is that Arman, until he was like 6, I think, he didn't even call me mom. He called me Mina. He used to call my mom. So yeah, like my husband, Irfan, calls his mom from her first name. And so there is, like, it's interesting to me because I'm not saying I'm going to have my kids stop calling me mom, but I feel like the relationship is way more authentic when I'm not thinking of myself with a very loaded and heavy word. Because in my life, a lot of my friends or the circles that I hang in, they treat me like I'm not the typical mom. Sometimes there's judgment attached to it. Sometimes there's coolness attached to it. And sometimes there's nothing attached to it. I'm just attaching something to it. But I've realized that I work better. I am better. I become better when I'm just me and I don't have a loaded like thing attached to it. So I don't know if this makes sense to any of you guys. But yeah, it makes sense to me in some weird way. Aisha said, we understand. Oh, okay. That was the previous comment. I'm sorry. Let me see. Sarah, thank you so much. You're awesome as well. Yes. Ah, that's beautiful. You made that?
Uh-huh.
It's so good.
I'm coloring crayons.
Oh, that's so good. You're so creative.
I'm going to make something.
Okay. Another thing I will mention too, the same thing with the whole parenting thing, is that I think when I'm not coming from a place of mom or hierarchy or authority.
Yes. Get out.
Oh, okay, that's good. Then, and I'm just being me, I think that I allow my children to not be children, and I just allow them to be the human beings that they are. Because if I'm mom, then it also means that they are children. But if I'm just me, then they are just them. Am I creeping you guys out yet? But it really helps me, because then I don't have any expectations of them to behave in a certain way, or does that make sense to you guys? I hope some of you guys can relate to you. Anna said, LOL, weird is totally me. Don't worry. I think you're doing an amazing thing with your life. Thank you, Anna. I'm just like burying myself further over here. Tina said, you were right, Mina. The feelings from the pictures are probably a worry on how I think others view me. When I see the picture, I see an unhealthy, lazy, large woman, but that's not true. Yeah, so that's Tina, and they're not even probably thinking that. They might be, when they see the pictures, they're probably thinking, what a radiant, beautiful woman, or what a great picture. But sometimes our own insecurities and our own like issues from the past can project these things onto other people. So let me tell you one thing. So I had a client that was asking me, she said that, she had relatives and neighbors and people that were constantly judging her, and that she felt judged all the time. And we went through this exercise, and we did some work together, and it was very easy very hard, for her to step out of this kind of judgment thing, where she could have, you know how I say disable your push buttons. That was a really tough exercise for her. So I said, okay, you know what? Allow them to judge you. And she's like, what? Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Allow them to judge you. But here's the but. They can only judge you when they are physically in front of you. So if you have a mother, let's say, that judges you, or a sister or a mother-in-law, whatever, you say, okay, that person is very judging. That's just how they are. I'm going to allow them to judge me, but only when they are in face-to-face contact with me. So she's like, what will this do? And I'm like, what this will do is that all of those things that we do when that person is not in front of us, like let's say that your house is messy and you're constantly like, oh, my mother-in-law is going to judge me. She's going to say this. You stop harassing yourself. Because that way, that person has the benefit of judging you in person, but they also have the benefit of judging you 24/7 in your head, right? In your thoughts. They're always judging you. They're always saying, like, who the hell do you think you are? You look ugly right now, or you look fat right now, or your house is a mess, you're a slob. So when I did this exercise with her, she came back a few weeks later, and we're having this discussion. She's like, oh my God, I realized that most of the time, it was just me. Like, it was in my head. They weren't actually judging me. And she's like, when I allowed them to judge me in person, sometimes they judged me, but sometimes they didn't. They didn't say anything. It was just like you were projecting your own insecurities because you thought your house was messy. You were thinking that my mother-in-law is judging me. And sometimes maybe they said something like, oh, aren't you going to clean? Or you didn't clean before I came? Or didn't you know I was going to? Maybe they made that. And what happened is that when those people would do that, because she was already expecting them, she had allowed them to do that, she said a smile would come on my face. So instead of being triggered by this thing of like, oh my gosh, she's gonna come over, she's gonna think my house is a mess, she's gonna think I'm fat, she's gonna think I'm a slob, you're already punishing yourself. The person's not even there. What happened was when the person came, sometimes they wouldn't say anything. Sometimes they would make a comment, but because you were already expecting it and you were like, this is just how they are, instead of getting angry, she said that a weird smile would come in her face, and she noticed this only because the other person would be like, what? Why are you smiling? Or they would get like taken aback by that and notice their own behavior and then not say anything. So it's very interesting on how we punish ourselves so much. And even if, let's say that you are related to an awful person that's just awful, they say negative things, well, you're only seeing them so many times, right? Why are you allowing them to run the rest of your life? Maybe you like being a slob, maybe you like having a dirty house, and you can be like, you know what, I see her once a week and I'm going to allow her to judge me, but the rest of the week I'm going to be an amazing slob because that's who I am. Oh, what happened?
I can't run.
Oh, okay, just leave it here and then go put something on over there. That's okay? Okay, so does that make sense? So sometimes, a lot of times, we're just torturing ourselves, and for that maybe 2 hours that you have to deal with that person, you're torturing yourself the whole week. Doesn't make any sense. Thank you, someone. Me and Joe said, love these live check sessions. Yes. Cheryl said, yes, same thoughts about being a mom figure. It's nice to relax and enjoy your children for what they are and where they are in their lives. I have a strong bond with my grown children and we have no judgments. Love that, Cheryl. And thank you so much for saying that, because your children are grown, it helps me know that it turns out good, because I worry about that. One thing I read, Cheryl, you made me think of this. One thing I read was, I can't remember which book it was because I read it in just the last 2 weeks and it was really interesting. The book talks about how when our children walk into the room and let's say we look at them and immediately we notice that their jeans aren't buckled or their shoelaces are untied, or they have something on their face, and we look at them, and even though we love our children, we love them, right? We look at that and we immediately notice on those things, we focus on them and say, hey, there's something on your face, your shoelaces are untied, and you forgot to buckle your jeans. what those children see is they see our critical face. They don't see that we love them, because in that moment, all they're seeing. Let me give you an example. So let's say you are my child and you walked in the room and I'm just looking at you and saying, "Hi, you woke up, good morning, how are you?" Okay? And now let's say that I'm still very excited to see my child, but I looked and the first thing I noticed was that your shoelaces were untied. So this is how it's going to be. "Oh, your shoelaces are untied. How are you? Good morning." You see how it's very different, because right now, even though I'm very excited to see my child still, I am focused on the fact that, and I have done this. I hate to admit this, but I have done this. My kids, when they wake up, especially my older boys, they get dressed themselves. They're 13 and 7, and sometimes I'll greet them like, "Hey, how are you?" And sometimes I'll look at them and I'll notice something's out of place, and my first thing will be like, "Oh, you forgot to do that." And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, like I can see how my face would be different. And I want my children to see my loving and accepting face. I want them to just, and it's not that you can't mention those things. Of course, I don't want my son going to school with his zip undone or something, but present that love and affection and that acceptance first, and then you can be like, "Oh, by the way, you forgot to." But it's how, I don't know what made me think of that, Cheryl, your comment, but I think this is an important one for me to mention, because I was doing this, and when I read that, I was like, whoa, that's such a different energy, isn't it? It's that feeling, and accepting this also makes me realize that sometimes my loved ones, for example, I have relatives and friends that when I see them, I'm about to go in for a hug, and they might be like, "Oh, your hair looks dry today," or "Did you wear a different foundation? It doesn't quite match you." And it kills that excitement that I was coming in with, like I was gonna hug them, and then it also makes me not judge them, because I'm like, you know what, maybe in their heart they do love me and they accept me, but they're doing what I do with my children, where I'm like, "Oh, I noticed that your shoelaces are not tied, right?" And so maybe they could have told me that my hair is dry and my foundation doesn't match 30 minutes into our meeting, but they chose to lead with that. But I can't judge them, because I have done that as a person, as a mom. I've done that. So it also helps you accept other people and why they do certain things. Let's see. Emily said there are some who let their whole identity fall under the title as mom, and when their children are on their own as adults, they become lost. Emily, this is so true. And I hate to say this because I think it's going to sound like a stereotype, but I think there is a strong correlation between those people, the one where their entire life is their children, and then they feeling lost and later on, but also I think their children tend to be very much feeling guilty and not able to live their life fully and accepting and growing, because they feel like they feel held back because they feel responsible. You guys know I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of times people will say, "No, I have to do this for my mom because she doesn't have any friends, or she doesn't have anything to do." And these are grown people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're still worried about their parents, and not worried in the place of like maybe health issues, but worried like I can't grow and grow as a person and learn and evolve because I'm still hanging on to this my parent. And so if nothing else, for them, you have to have your own. If you don't have your own identity other than parent, then you are stifling your child's growth in some way, because you're not going to allow them to have their own identity other than child, right? So it's a two-way street. Samantha said, yes, that's true. When I know what behaviors to expect from someone, I don't allow that to bother me. Yes. And I think sometimes that resistance that we feel, Samantha, in the what I was talking about before, Alina's dancing over here. This is her look at me moment. So, what was I saying? Toddler. What was I talking about? Yes, sometimes when we say, okay, this person is judging and I'm going to allow them to judge, you notice that if you're allowing them to be who they are, you disarm them. And I have noticed in my own life that it slowly trickles down. It's not immediate, but it slowly trickles down where I don't know if I'm just noticing it less, or they're just noticing that I'm not bothered by it, or it kind of falls off after a little bit. Vishu said, I needed to hear all this. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome. Anna. Oh, first live chat. Awesome. Yes. Thank you guys for coming. I do have... Tina said, thank you, Mina, for your time. You just say what I needed to hear. If the number one thing I hear from you guys in the comments on my Facebook group, under these live chats, is that the topics that I talk about is exactly what you needed to hear, which is so interesting because it's kind of the stuff that I wish that more people would talk about in real life. I wonder if most women walk around wanting to connect on this level and having these discussions, but they just don't have the place for it. Now, being who I am, right, when I go into making new friends or mommy groups and stuff, I will bring these things up and people don't want to talk about it. So is it that you and I are different people, or we are those same people in those groups, but we don't feel like we have a safe place to discuss it in person? Why is it? If you guys can answer this question for me, I'd love to know that. Why is it that, because I have 21,000 of you, right? That's a lot of people. So why is it that I can't find any of you guys in a natural setting, like outside? If I go to a mommy group, why are you guys not in my mommy groups? Because people don't want to have these. We're in those kind of groups, all I find is a heavily guarded people with armors on of perfect moms or frantic mom or whatever they have their story. They're just leading with that, and that is all they're just one-upping each other. There isn't a lot of trust. Maybe I've just been a part of the wrong groups, but I cycled through a lot of mommy groups very quickly because I can't find that connection, or I find that I have to really turn off my light and really make myself small to be able to fit in a way that they will accept me, which is not okay with me. I can't live that way. It's not authentic to who I am. But there aren't a lot of confident people out there that are willing to grow in that same way. So I don't know what it is. And a lot of you guys write into me saying that too. So I wonder, where are you guys in real life? Cindy said some people are not ready to do the work. Maybe that's it, Cindy. Maybe by bringing up these topics, like they're not ready to see that mirror of that work. And the truth is that nobody's perfect at it either. Like, I'm not coming from a place of like I have it all figured out either. No, I want to discuss this because I want to grow. I want to learn. I'm inspired by other moms and other women, and I want to learn, like, what do you know? Like, share with me and I'll share with you. But people are very guarded outside. I'm not sure what it is. And I said, I appreciate you taking the time to pass on your knowledge. Yes, we are part of the box we are put on the box thinkers. We don't fit in so easily without being judged. Much love. Yes. Maybe that's it, Anna. She said your followers are people who want to self-actualize. So maybe that is that because this is kind of a niche, right? Like, you guys have come here to learn certain things, but people in real life don't want to have those kind of discussions because maybe they're afraid of being judged, or they're afraid of not being accepted for who they are, whatever. I don't know. Yes, I agree. Ross said it's probably fear of not being perfect or being judged, or that they don't know how to express it. Yes. I'm a lifelong learner and I'm coachable. Yes, Ross, this is such an important thing, because this is something that I constantly stress to my children. But again, saying something and living it is different. So I also live this, is that I want to always be that person that's coachable, or that I come open to receive information and love and knowledge. And that's such an important part of it. I think in a lot of these circles, people are so afraid of being judged because they have been judged for little things like their child rearing or how they're dressed or different things like that, we've become, Breen Brown says, we've armored up to a point where we're not open for that kind of communication anymore. Rachel said, some people are prideful. My favorite thing about you is that you are honest and willing to learn and change. It inspires me. Thank you so much, Rachel. She said that that's the best thing about you. I've always seen that and lived and loved that about you. Thank you so much, Rachel. That's what a nice compliment. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Oh, Bridget, yes. I keep calling you me and Joe, but hi, Bridget. It's nice to finally put a name to that screen name. Thank you. Xian said most people don't like to explore such deep, meaningful topics for fear of being judged. It's amazing when you do meet like-minded people. Yes, yes. I think that fear of being judged, and the opposite of that, Xian, would again be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to put yourself out there. So I have had many situations where maybe once I got to know a group of women and I would, discuss these kind of things of like, no, we're not perfect little mothers. Like, so, let's talk about some other things. And I noticed that they will get really guarded and they'll start lashing out or making fun of me in a way to protect themselves and teach me that this is not, we don't go there. And so instead of being triggered by that, I just accepted that because of their unique life experiences, they are not ready to go there. It's not a safe place. I haven't earned that from them yet. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm not willing to put in that much of a time, I guess. And that may be my own thing. I have a mommy group that I've been part of 4 years, I think now. And even after 4 years, I find a lot of the conversation is just very superficial. It's very over the top. I do have some friends that I met not through mommy groups, with older children out of the home, grown adult children. Those women, maybe because they're already done through that whole process, they don't feel like they're being judged on their parenting anymore. They're very much willing to talk about these topics and go in deep and dive in deep. My friend Sarah, she's wonderful, and her daughter is a teenager. She's not out of the house yet, but she is one of those people that will hold my hand. She's also a subscriber, so I'm sure she'll watch this at some point. Sarah is one of those people that will hold your hand and jump into one of those dark places with you and just explore that and talk about it and say, yeah, this is where we're good, this is where we're not good, this is where we need work. And I crave those type of people in my life, and I'm so glad that I have you guys, because I crave those conversations. Yes, Rachel, it's exhausting. Thank you. She said, I've learned so much from you. Rachel, so this is one of those things. I realized that in groups, okay, let me put it this way. So after certain lunches or meetings or hangouts or play dates, I noticed that when I came home, I had a headache and I was exceptionally drained. And with other meetings or lunches or whatever I was doing, I noticed that I was feeling very energetic. And so my first response was, am I eating the wrong things at those meetings? Is it me? Am I just tired? And I started noticing a pattern, again, by asking, what am I feeling and why? And I noticed that in conversation or in meetings where I was forced to be very much like not me, like I had to guard myself or not show who I really am or dim my light or have very superficial conversations, it exhausted me because that is not who I really am, and it takes a lot of energy from my being to have superficial conversations about the weather or about, children, like superficial things about children, not like deep things, but like, about just pretending like everything's okay and how everybody's parenting is just perfect, or places where a lot of time and energy was spent on gossiping about other people, judging other people. I noticed I physically had a very strong headache and I felt mentally drained. In circles where I was allowed to be who I am, we talked about things that naturally came up, whether that was the weather or even if gossip came up, it just naturally occurred. We were flowing. The conversation was easy. I felt alive after those meetings. Like I just felt like a whole new person. Like they fed me. They fed my soul in some way. So it really made me evaluate and unsubscribe from those groups or those people and not see them so often that were life draining, because we all have so much energy, right? And I don't want to give away all my energy and drain it to people that not only add no value to my life, but I add nothing to their life, because if that's how they made me feel, I bet you that I did the same for them. So because it's a two-way, it's that whole energy that we're both bringing in, or all three of us are bringing into the circle, and that matters. So I want to be with the people that feed my soul and whose soul I feed, hopefully in some way, and we're exchanging positive energy. Let's see. Laura said, I think moms of young children and babies are extra scared of judgment because they are so worried they're not doing everything perfectly. Yes, Laura, this is key. And I think once you get to a point where you're like, I know I'm not doing everything perfectly. My children do not need me to do things perfectly. I am not a worthier mom if I'm doing things perfectly. I'm just doing me. I'm doing me, and I'm doing what my children need me to do versus what's considered perfect by society, right? So I think once you can accept that, for in my own life, I felt like my parenting was a little bit off, not so normal from a lot of what I see in the groups that I'm in, and I felt that I was being judged until I got to a point where I said, nobody's judging me except for myself. This is who I am. I'm worthy whether I parent perfectly or not. My children don't need perfect, they just need me. So when I accepted it, I no longer felt judged, even if people were judging me, because it didn't matter. It just fell off my radar. Okay, Bridget said, where would you suggest one of us moms, wives who has lost themselves in those roles start with your videos? What would be a good starting point for regaining your own interests and identity? Love that. As far as videos, or where that's a good question. So I've got a lot of different playlists on different things. Where I would start would be so for example, if somebody came to me and said that they needed to start weight loss, I would say start with my weight loss videos. And some people said they needed to start decluttering, I would say start with my minimalism videos. So what I would say to you, Bridget, is that if you want to, you said in your second thing that regaining your own interest and identity, what I would say is that start off by asking yourself that feeling question. I don't have a separate video on this, so maybe this is the video for you. But you start here and say, at different points of the time, start asking yourself. We are so used to thinking or asking ourselves what we're thinking. We're not used to asking ourselves, what am I feeling? And that's how you start to realize that you feel a certain way when you do certain things. Certain things make you feel alive, certain things make you feel drained. And that's how you start, like, for example, music. I stopped listening to music after my mother passed away because music was it was a big part of my relationship with my mother and sister. My mother and sister are amazing singers. We all love to dance, and it was a big part of our togetherness. And so when she passed away, I stopped listening to music, and I became a person that said, I don't like music. I don't listen to music. And now, like, we listen to music and dance all the time. And so one of the things that came up was like, how do I feel right now? How do I, and then those things came up that I miss music. So I would say, I don't know why I even use that as an example, but I think the reason I did is because I had forgotten that I loved music and I missed music because I had just buried that away after my mother died away. And asking myself constantly, how do I feel? Made that thing come back up again. So I would start with asking yourself that, because a lot of women say they don't know what they like to do. They don't know what their passions are. They don't know what makes them come alive. That's how you discover, is ask yourself, even if your answer is, I feel kind of sad right now. Okay, why do I feel sad? Start uncovering those emotions from inside and say, why am I feeling tired? Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling happy right now? Why do I feel alive? What was I just doing? I need to do more of that. So start there. Catherine said, how could you go about not having superficial conversations? So Catherine, I think, one thing I will say is that sometimes it's important to ask good questions. And guide the conversation in a way that people can learn that you're not, maybe that person also wants to have deeper conversation, they just don't know it yet. That's one way. Also realize that some people are just not ready. So sometimes it just means going and finding another crowd of people or finding another friend. But what I find is that asking more feeling questions can help me realize if people are interested in that. So for example, if I'm in with a friend or with a new group of people and I'm asking them, what do you think about this? That will keep them very much in their head. That will keep them competing with you, one-upping you, because we're talking about thinking, right? There's judgment involved there. But if I change the question to, how did that make you feel? It comes from a very different place because they're having to drop down from their head into their heart. Now, some people are not in tune with their heart, so they're not going to be able to do it. When you ask them how did that make them feel, they will start answering about what they think about that versus how that really made them feel because they're not ready. But some people, you will realize it opens up a whole other conversation, a whole other realm. And I think that's why the friends that I do talk about these kind of things, my friend Sarah, it's because when we would discuss things, we would discuss how that thing or that lack of thing made us feel versus what we're thinking about it. And so that can open up a realm. But some people clearly aren't ready. My husband and I, in a lot of the conversations him and I are having, to get myself out of the head realm, because I'm so used to doing that, I ask him a lot of feeling questions. And I noticed that the questions that he asked me are more about feelings. Because here's the thing, when he's trying to make a decision about something, I've noticed that he doesn't come to me and say, what do you think about this? He says, what do you feel? And so that's very interesting because it shows me that even the masculine energy is more concerned. Here's how to answer that. My children and my husband and my friends, my siblings, people that come to me don't always want to know what I think about something. Most of the time, or some of the time, they want to know what I feel about that thing. How would that feel? Especially when if you come to me and you want me to, you're asking me, let's just say it's something that happens all the time between two different diets, right? And you're asking me, what do I think about that diet? And you're asking me about the facts of that diet. Which one do I think medically or from a scientific point of view will help you lose more weight? But if you're asking me how I feel about that diet, then you may be asking me which one I think is more likely to stick with you or make you feel happy or make you feel content long enough so that you can follow it. And so I'm realizing in the way that people word things, or sometimes maybe they're wording it incorrectly, but I will sometimes even ask, like if my son comes to me, I ask him if I'm unsure, do you want me to tell you what I think, or do you want me to tell you like what I'm feeling, or do you want me to just listen to you right now? Because it's a new thing that I'm still learning. And most of the time he says, I just want you to listen. So I think what it is that they want empathy, but we lead with thinking. We lead with giving them information and facts. So for example, let's say you're in a mommy group. I don't know where I took this. And somebody's just sharing her challenges with her schedule of she has to drop her children off there. If I'm coming from a place of feeling, my response will be like, wow, that's tough. I feel you. Yeah, children can pull us in all kinds of directions. I'm feeling her pain and I'm empathizing with her. But if I instantly go into life coaching mode and I'm like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this route first? Or why don't you take some things off your plate? That's not what she needed. She just needed, baby cakes. She just needed a listening ear. And so if I do that enough with her, where I'm like thinking and giving her, guiding her, she's going to shut herself off because she's going to feel very judged. She's not feeling like I'm a mom that can relate to her being busy or relate to her being. I'm just fixing her. I'm coming from a masculine energy. Anna said a lot of us have been cut off from our bodies for different reasons. I know I'm just getting back to mine. Anna, you and I both. Yes, that is something that I'm just now discovering. That's where Rachel Jane's book, I have it linked in the description box. Yes, baby? Okay, I'm coming. You want to get it yourself or you want me to give it? Yeah, get it. Okay. So it's coming from a place Rachel Jane Grover's book is linked in the description box. She has a lot of exercises that put you in your body. I read so many other books, but this one really does it. It's the one that really helped me the most. Anna said, I'm going to leave it with this quote, guys. My daughter needs me, so I'm going to cut this live chat here. But she said, it takes nothing to be in a crowd, but it takes everything to stand alone. Glad I found your channel. It was getting a bit lonely. P.S. Sarah sounds like an amazing friend. She is. Thank you guys so much. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really enjoy this time that we spend together. It really makes me come alive, if you guys can't tell. Thank you so much. Check out that book. I highly recommend it. It's called Powerful and Feminine. I have it linked in the description box. And some of the other books that I've been reading, I have in my Amazon store, which is also linked below. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next one. If you are watching this in the replay, leave your comments below. Let's keep that conversation going. I love spending this time with you guys. Alina wants to come say hi. You want to come say hi? Okay, wait.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you, Cheryl, and everyone, guys. So much fun.
So much fun.
You had fun too?
Ah.
You had fun?
Hmm.
Okay. All right, guys. See you in the next one.
Bye.
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 Bye. And it comes to bye.